Aloha, I am Dr. Keone Dudley, and I want to welcome you to segment 3 of the new hurricane threat for Hawaii. This segment will tell you about hurricane shelters, how few there are, how they can only withstand a Category 1 hurricane, and how, if we have a Category 2, 3, 4, or 5, there are no shelters for us to use at all. Next, we are going to talk with Hiro Toya, who is the director of the Honolulu Department of Emergency Management. How many people will be seeking hurricane shelters?
We don't know until an event happens, for a specific event, how many people will actually seek shelter. But a behavioral study that was done back in 2018 showed that about 20% of the public may seek a public shelter during a hurricane event.
And how many hurricane shelters do we have now?
So if we use the term hurricane shelter, we're really referring to the best available refuge areas, the best of what we have in our inventory. So with that out of the way, we have 38 facilities that we've identified as potential hurricane refuge areas. And so the capacity for that, on the basis of 10 square feet per person, which is really not much room at all, right? We have approximately enough space for 100,000 individuals. So clearly there is a delta there. You know, if we can get as many as 200,000 evacuees, and if we only have space for 100,000, that's a problem. So that is something that we're continuing to address, identifying additional facilities, but also trying to do what we can to lower that number. You know, instead of 200,000, could it be a lower number by encouraging folks to do more home retrofits, for instance, so that they can better shelter at home, or identifying other alternatives instead of the publicly operated hurricane refuge areas.
Tell me the best available refuge areas. What kind of hurricane can they withstand?
The state actually has criteria and definitions for hurricanes that was defined back in the early 2000s. And unfortunately, most of our facilities don't meet that criteria. And that's why we have to shift to this methodology of finding the best that we have out of what we have, right? There are vulnerabilities associated with these buildings, but what we are hoping to accomplish is to identify facilities that folks can go to, those folks that live in the most vulnerable areas or in the most vulnerable homes. So for instance, if you live in a single wall construction home, chances are our best available refuge areas and would perform better than those types of buildings. If folks are able to find alternatives, you know, whether it's a friend's house or a neighbor's house or, you know, family member's house somewhere out of the water impact areas, we encourage them to find somewhere else they can go to. And if those are newer homes that are potentially retrofitted or, you know, have added additional protection, those may serve as better alternatives. But ultimately, you know, for folks, it's really important to prepare and plan now instead of when the storm is coming at you.
Let's come back to talking more about shelters specifically. When you get to the shelter, what would a person expect?
Our shelters or refuge areas are going to be pretty basic in terms of what's offered, and that's a protection from the elements. That's the primary thing that we can offer. Most of these facilities will not have supplies, so evacuees will have to bring their own supplies. And we really encourage folks to bring as much as they can. I know that water is going to be a big challenge to bring, but we encourage folks to bring 14 days worth of supplies, or as much as you can bring, right? So really thinking about what you're going to need, the bare necessities, whether it's food, medication, change of clothing, you know, just something to help you stay somewhat hygienic. It is going to be a very austere environment.
Okay, that was Hiro Toya, the head of the City Department of Emergency Management. So, looking at the overall picture, we have 187,000 wooden houses on Oahu. A great many of them are single-wall construction. Most are expected to suffer damage, and many to be destroyed even in a Category 1. Most are not safe to stay in. especially those that are single-wall construction. Because of these unsafe houses, 200,000 people on Oahu will need shelters in a Category 1 hurricane. But we have only 38 shelters ready to receive people, and those 38 shelters can only accommodate 100,000 people, just half of those needing shelters. But that's not the worst of it. Most of those 38 shelters can withstand only a Category 1, and some can't even do that. So if we are hit by a Category 2, 3, 4, or 5, there are no shelters for any of us at all. No place to go at all. As we are saying again and again, you truly are on your own. In closing, I want to thank the Makakilo Kapolei Honokai Hale Neighborhood Board for bringing together the experts that we have heard today. I want to thank Olelo Community Media for helping us to reshoot the entire program. I want to thank Kareen Makahilahila for her marvelous job in editing this with me. I want to thank the nonprofit 2050 Hawaii Incorporated for sponsoring the program. And I want to thank Tesla Solar for funding its creation. Finally, I dedicate this program to my wife, Doris Sadako Dudley. You may want to see this program again. It can be found on the Olelo website and on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching. Aloha.